Lonnie Payne here with another Fiero video. In this video I'm going to talk about a headlight problem. I've got a headlight that doesn't want to go up unless you kind of help it, and I'm going to show you how to fix that problem, and I think it's a fairly common problem, and so we're going to fix it. So let's go. Okay, one of the problems I'm working on in this car is my left headlight does not want to come up. And all right, so you'll notice that when you hit the power, the light actually turns on. So the light's on in there, and then if you just pop this just a little bit, it comes up. So the light itself works, and for my research, I think that's a limit switch. So you do put it back down. Doesn't want to come up again. So I think it's a limit switch, so we'll get this out of here and see what we can find out. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the headlights up and then come back and disconnect the negative terminal on the battery, which I've already done. So now the headlights will stay up, but they won't be powered, and we can actually get to work. Alright, if you're working on a car you had never worked on before or not real familiar with, I highly recommend getting the service manual. This was the manual that they used to do anything you can do to this car. So it always has step-by-step instructions on how to do things. So super useful. First thing we do is we're going to mark on the back wall here. You can see probably the little Sharpie marks I put on top of the two nuts, exactly where that bracket meets the frame there, so we can put that back together exactly where it's supposed to be. Alright, first thing we got to do is we got to take this electrical connection off, which is just a straight pull-out connection, 3-prong, so when you go to hook it back up you can't get anything messed up there, so we just get rid of that. Alright, the next thing we'll do is take these two bolts out, and then there's a rod right here that pushes the light up, and we'll take that bolt out, and then once we do that we can lift this light assembly out. Alright, so that allows, that's for the rod, and now we just need to take these two off. Alright, so got the light out. Now we just got to go to the bracket. I had to get an extension for these. See why they wanted you to put the mark in there. This thing's got a lot of play in it, so that way we know exactly where to put it back. This one, just a quick disconnect. And this one should be the same way. All right. Release that so we can thread that through, and there we go. There's the motor. All right, gonna take this motor off the housing. take that off. Allow this to slide off. We can pull this motor out. Set all this to the side. Okay. All right. I believe the switch we're looking for, if that's our problem, is in behind this little All right, what I suspected the problem is this little switch right here. So I'm going to take this little rubber stopper out, and we're going to take the switch out. Just going to pull really lightly. What I suspect might be a problem is these brushes. I don't know if you can see these two little brushes right here. They look pretty worn. You kind of see they've got a kind of a groove in one of them. But I'm going to clean it up and take a look at it, and we'll see what we can figure out here. All right, I've cleaned this switch up a little bit, and the brushes look pretty worn out, but I'm going to adjust them a little bit, put a little dielectric grease on them, clean them up. And then also, the way I believe this works is when the headlight gets to a limit, it hits this little switch. Trying to see it here. And that's what disconnects it, and then the other limit, so up and down. So what I'm doing is I'm going to clean them switches up. I've got a little piece of, I use this clean pinball switches, and we'll try and clean that switch up a little bit. Just rub that up and down. I'm going to cut that a little bit so I can get it in there. So we just, as it's closed, we just rub that back and forth, kind of clean up that switch a little bit. You can kind of see how it's dark on the cleaner, which means it was taking something off. So it means it was dirty. Sometimes you like to push the switches together to get some friction on them, but it really can in this situation. It's just no way to get in there to do that. Okay, got those cleaned up. Put a little bit of, I'm going to bend these out just a little bit. Maybe give it just a little bit more attention on them brushes. A little bit of grease here. Just a little bit there, not too much. All right, now we'll put this back together and see what we got. So it just goes. And just you got these two pins in here, and what I believe is happening is when the light gets to the end, it puts friction on because it's still trying to turn it, and that's these things you can see have a spring between them, and one of these will move, and that's what triggers the switch to turn the power off the motor. And then once you want to go the other way, since the other switch is saying, hey, everything's good, it starts going the other way till it reaches the limit, and then the other one puts pressure on this switch, turns it off. That's the way I believe it works. Thing is, you just can't test it in with the light in because this panel's totally covered up. So it's like it'd be nice to be able to watch it and see what's happening, but we can maybe put it on a bench. But so that's it back in. Then the little rubber piece goes back like that. And I would probably look like there might have been a little bit of sealant in there. I'm not going to do that right now because I may have to take it apart again. So once it's all together and I know everything's perfect, I might actually take it back apart and put some sealant on, to weatherproof it. But at this point, I don't want to have to rip that stuff and clean it off if I got to take it apart again. So that's why we're going to put it together like it is. So we'll put the cap on, we'll reassemble it and see what we got. All right. Putting this back in is just like taking it out. So we'll put this, thread this through here, and we'll leave this clamp open until we get it in there because it needs to clamp down where it has enough slack. So we'll just let it run and then we'll clamp this down here in a little bit. Remember, we had to draw a line on here. So we're gonna put this exactly where it needs to be and then tighten it down. Putting the headlight back in is just those 3 bolts we took out at the very beginning. All right, then plug this back in. Like I said, we'll not sure how much room we need here, so we'll put that in there, but we're not going to clamp it yet. We'll see how it goes. All right, I'm going to hook the battery up. The switch is in the on position, so we should see the light turn on. And I'm just going to touch the battery so it'll, when I let go, it'll go off. But you'll hear the right one come up because I had spun it down. So you saw the light go down when I hooked the battery up. So now here's the moment of truth. Go up, lights are on. All right, I think we got a winner. I just want to give you a little bit more information on how that switch works. There's 2 sides of that switch, and it comes to a common part at the top, and then that goes over to the brushes for the motor. And so based on if the light's going up or down, which side of that switch is being used. So when the motor puts the lights down, the side that controls that then is separated by the little prong that I showed you. And then when you put it the other way, it sends power, it spins the other direction until it gets to the end and the other side gets disconnected. So what was happening is the lights spend most of their life down. So those switches rest against each other, and there probably got to be a really dirty area, maybe some corrosion there or something, but it's kind of like your battery in your car. You can have a good battery, but if the cable is corroded at the connector, sometimes there's not enough continuity of that to get the power to the motor, and your car won't start. It's kind of the same thing. And so what I think was happening is as you went to put the light up, the switch was closed. It just wasn't making good contact. But as you spin, or as I touched it, you know, just that little touch moved that little plunger, if you will, a little bit, and that adjusted the switch just enough to where that blade moved, and all of a sudden there was enough continuity and the light pops up. And the light went down normally because that part of the switch is not active very often, so it was cleaner, if you will. So I just hope that's a little bit more explanation. So cleaned that up a little bit and now it works perfectly. But that's how that switch works, and that's what this problem was. I hope that makes a little bit more sense. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you on the next one.